Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Talk to the Recruiters, number 5. Today, we're going to concentrate on our education industry. I want to send out a quick poll for everyone that are joining us as attendees. And if you'll just let us know if you're a student, faculty member, staff, that would be great. I want to do a quick introduction for our panelists today. And then they're going to tell us a little bit about their organization or school district. I do want to remind you that University Career Services is hosting a virtual education career day on May 14th from 1 to 4 p.m. You can register in the Career Fair Plus. I don't know if it's open just yet, but you can keep checking back and check the website in Career Services for University Park. You can also download the app to just search for Career Fair Plus on your mobile device, okay? So first of all, let me tell you who's in our panel today. I'm Nicole Darling. I'm the Eastern Region Employer Engagement and Career Specialist. I'm going to be your moderator today. As part of our panelists, we have Julie Evans. She is the Division Teacher Mentor Coach for Accomack, I hope I pronounced that correctly, County Public Schools. We also have Andrea Hopper. She is the Director of Human Resources for Central Bucks School District. We have Toy Tanton, who is the Administrative Coordinator for Recruitment and Retention at Prince William County Schools. We're also lucky enough to have Greg Mason. He is the Director of Education Advising at Penn State. And we have Tim Newbert as well, Executive Director of the American Association for Employment in Education. So what we're going to do today is I'll ask a few general questions to get us started. And then if any of our attendees have any questions, they are welcome to put those in the Q&A pod. And then we'll start those about 30 minutes in, and we'll make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. So if we want to just start, maybe Julie, if you want to start us off, just give us a brief overview about your school district and where you come from.
Okay, hello. I'm Julie Evans, and I am from Accomack County, Virginia. We are probably about 4.5, 5 hours from Penn State. We are on a peninsula, so we're bordered by the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the Chesapeake Bay on the other. And I call it God's country. It's a beautiful area. And despite of what we're going through, we still have a lot going for us. Beautiful weather right now. And we've had boats going out. We've had a lot of people, socially distancing, but enjoying their time. So it's a sad time, but it's also, we're making the most of it here on the peninsula. We have 11 schools in our county, so we're rather small. We're in a rural county, and we have about 5,300 students and about 520 teachers right now in our county. And we're very supportive of our teachers in our division. We have a 3-year mentoring program. And we love to recruit Pennsylvania teachers to our area.
Excellent. Andrea, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name is Andrea DiDio-Hauber. I'm the Director of Human Resources for Central Bucks School District. We are the largest suburban school district in the state of Pennsylvania, 3rd largest overall. With Philadelphia and Pittsburgh being ahead of us. We have just around a little under 1,700 teachers. We have 23 schools, 15 elementaries, 5 middles, 3 high schools. So we are always looking for teachers, and we have found that the program that Penn State offers with the year-long internship has just been a phenomenal asset to the teachers that we have from Penn State, and we have quite a number of Penn State teachers, and we are finding that a lot of our students come back as teachers. So
nice, very nice. Toy, how about you?
Morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see everyone that I can see, but it's just good to be in another Zoom meeting. I'm enjoying myself. But anyway, Prince William County Schools is the second largest school division in Virginia. We serve about 91,000 kids. We have about 6,500 teachers. Last year, we hired about 44 teachers from Penn State University. We too have a 3-year mentoring program that we offer our teachers. And while we are a large school division, we have a small school division feel. We offer a lot of professional development. I have had the pleasure to serve as a teacher, administrator, and now I recruit teachers. So I can say from every level that I've had an opportunity to have the Prince William County experience. We are about 40 minutes from DC, 35 miles out southwest of DC. So we have a lot to offer. And it has been wonderful to hear kids actually playing outside and seeing people walking. And I am enjoying myself getting a chance to see the sun, because when I'm at work, I'm in a cubicle, so I don't get to see as much sun. But now I'm like, oh, there's sunshine every day. Like, I miss being in school as a school leader because I got a chance to see the kids. So I get a chance to see them again. So I'm getting my kid fix. So
Excellent. Excellent. Tim, do you want to tell us a little bit about where you're from, your organization, and what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure.
I am the executive director for the American Association for Employment and Education, also known as AAEE, or we like to say AAEE, just so it rolls off the tongue a little bit better. We are a national nonprofit professional association. We connect universities and colleges who prepare teachers, school systems, and others who are hiring teachers, and the candidates themselves, and provide resources and activities around preparation, recruitment, and retention of teachers. We are a very lean organization with just 2 employees who are home-based here in Illinois. I am located about an hour west of Chicago, and my colleague is located about 5 hours south of me. We were previously located when my predecessor, executive director, was with us in the organization. We were based in Pennsylvania. So suffice it to say, wherever the executive director is where the organization is based. But we are proud to have membership of hundreds of universities and colleges and school systems across the country. And we have a relatively new membership level for educator candidates themselves, and have quickly obtained hundreds of members on that front. So just excited to move forward with our mission of continuing to support all the various components of pre-K through 12 teacher employment, and bringing all the parties together as quickly as possible.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And Greg, last but certainly not least, our Penn State colleague. Can you tell us a little bit about your department and what you do there?
Yeah, sure. So Greg Mason, Director of Academic Advising and Teacher Certification Services in the College of Education at Penn State. And so our office it serves our students pretty broadly as a student services center, but this is a busy time of year for us as we are kind of the middle step, the go-between between students and the Pennsylvania Department of Education in recommending our students for certification. So our responsibility is to verify that students have completed our program, have completed relevant testing, and are prepared to be recommended to PDE, as we say, for certification. Of course, this year has been a little different in that timeline, but we already have students that are applying for their certification. Currently, this is our smallest graduating class of future educators this year. Across Penn State campuses, we have 272 students graduating who are eligible to be recommended for certification. The good news is, even though that is our smallest class over the last 10 years, our numbers are growing. Each class after that, our junior, sophomore, and freshman classes are larger than that. And so that's a trend that some institutions are not seeing. So we're very excited that teacher preparation and education in the College of Education at Penn State is growing again.
Excellent, thank you. So I want to throw out sort of a broad question. which is with COVID-19. What, as far as the school districts go, and then I'll get our Greg and Tim's sort of perspective as well. But from a recruiting standpoint, how has COVID-19 changed your hiring? What does it look like now? Are you still hiring? And what information can you kind of give us about that? And anybody can jump in.
Well, here on the Eastern Shore, we are still hiring. We have right now probably about 23 that we know of openings where we're small. These are mainly retirees that had known already that they were going to retire and this be their last year. So we are still interviewing, and virtually, of course. And we had probably 8 or 9 job fairs lined up that, of course, we could not get to. So we're doing a lot of virtual Skyping and virtual job fairs, the director and myself. And we have in and out fluctuation with our teachers. We have not sent out contracts yet, so thus we don't know how many more we will need this year. Last year, we had a large fluctuation. We needed about 60 teachers, which was probably one of the largest years. We had a lot of retirees. However, we did have some people that decided to relocate. We have some government and we have some military that leave the area after so many years that are transferred. So we had some larger overall transfers last year. This year, hopefully won't need as many. However, we are always looking for teachers. Special education being one of our largest areas that we recruit, and secondary math, English, and then elementary is always popular as well. So one thing I will say about our division, as I said earlier, we have a great mentoring program, but we also we try to meet the needs of those teachers coming into our division, whether it be technology. We're upfront with them with where we're going for next year with education, and we try to help them early on with any of their needs. We have a huge ITRT department, which is very, very supportive with our teachers' needs as far as technology. So we embrace whatever their needs are and help train them early on. So we're always there for them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Toy, what's happening at your district?
Well, likewise, we are still hiring. I think so far this season, we're up to like 221 teachers. Last year, we hired about 800 teachers. So we always have positions that are available. We are site-based. So that means that the principals hire their own teachers. So what that looks like is when you apply for a position, we have a list of vacancies and you can apply right to that school, and then the school will reach out to you and they will plan their interviews. So we're still doing that, and we're having Skype, Zoom, phone calls, things of that nature where we're hiring candidates. And we are still, like I said, we still have a lot of openings in all areas: elementary, SPED, ESOL, middle, high, everything. So we're still going.
Good. Good to hear.
Oh, and we are offering, so we are participating in the virtual fairs. We also are having what's called a teacher interview day, which is where we vet all of the candidates, and then we send those to the schools, and then the schools will reach out to those candidates and interview the candidates. So yeah, we're still chugging along.
Good. Andrea, how about you?
So we're a lot like Toy. Our individual buildings, our principals in those buildings hold the interviews. Central office manages the retirements and what positions we are filling and not filling. We are slowly getting some additional retirements in this year. I think some of that has to do with people being concerned that they're going to go to a virtual model still in the fall. And I think that their level of concern is, I'm too far into my career and I'm too close to retirement to learn how to do this or continue doing this. So they're ready to just, I'm done. So I think that that's why they're starting to trickle in, because they know that, we're still kind of up in the air with regard to what's going to happen in the fall. And it's going to be a lot of upheaval, quite frankly. The likelihood that we're going back normal is slim. So some folks we're finding really just don't even want to deal with what they're going to be dealing with and try and navigate that. Plus, it's a lot for our veteran teachers. It's a lot of new technology that they really just don't want to find themselves learning at this late stage in their careers. So we are filling positions on a regular basis for leaves of absence, for folks that are going out to start families, for medical leaves. And we obviously, like most of you with sabbaticals, they have to have them submitted by a certain date, so we know what we're planning for next year. So,
excellent. Tim and Greg, what are you seeing as far as the industry goes? Any trends? I mean, of course, we know that all the schools in Pennsylvania have certainly gone online since mid-March, I believe it was. What are you seeing in terms of hiring with other school districts?
I think there's, certainly with everything, right? There's some level of uncertainty in almost every organization. But from where I sit, I'm seeing and hearing that hiring is continuing. In the area of teaching and education, we just had we spun up very quickly a virtual job fair. April 23rd, we hosted an event, and we had over 100 employers from 30 states represented, and they were chomping at the bit to get to candidates. And we were fortunate to have 1,500 candidates to match up with them. So, I see on both sides of the equation, there's still a great interest in making those connections and getting those positions filled.
Great.
I would just second what Tim was just saying, at least from my perspective where I'm situated. One thing we've seen, and this really started even last spring, but certainly has continued this spring, is more outreach on the part of districts and counties. So there seems to be a growing demand at the same time that there's been a bit of a drop off in supply from teacher preparation programs. So we've seen kind of more proactive outreach by districts and counties sooner, which means that the students are coming to us sooner saying, hey, such and such a district is interested. And it, previously we may not have seen that until April, and now we're seeing it even in February, in January in some cases, for the following school year. So I think that's something that's been a shift, and that's been a shift in a good way. And I don't think that's changed too much in the last 6 to 8 weeks, which is, it's always nice to hear from folks in districts and in counties, because, that really reinforces what we've been saying to students is, regardless of the format and what it looks like, schools will need new teachers for the coming school year. I think things are, the demand has increased, if anything, it seems like. At the same time, like I said earlier, this year's class is our smallest graduating class in 10 years. But luckily our numbers look like they're going to be swinging up the next few years to help meet that demand.
I think it's really interesting, even what Toy and Andrea had said about a lot of faculty choosing to retire at this point instead of diving deep into the technology, which is where it does seem like it's going, which makes your jobs that much more, important, and certainly stressful, trying to fill all of those positions that you normally probably had a couple of years before you had to fill them. So does anybody have any idea? I mean, we're sort of in the same boat as an educational institution, but I know, Andrew, I think you mentioned that the likelihood of going back to a physical location is not great. So what kind of things for a student who would be starting a new job in the fall, what would they be looking at as far as that role as a teacher, which they probably hadn't expected when they first started this journey?
Sure. No, I don't think any of us were prepared for something like this happening, in all fairness. But the way our folks have rallied and just gotten behind it and just really took the ball and ran with it has been phenomenal. What we are seeing is, in a lot of cases, the students that are coming out of college now are so tech savvy and so on top of the different applications that can be utilized and the different things that can be utilized in a classroom are just things that even we that are dealing every day aren't seeing. So that's a real plus for them. So I think what they will see, if I had to guess, I think that they will see a face-to-face and a virtual model. I think what a lot of folks are talking about is, maybe 3 days online, 2 days face-to-face. And then there's also conversation about certain periods, certain days of the week to limit the amount of students that are in buildings. Quite frankly, I have absolutely no idea how we're going to manage a student not getting on the wrong bus or getting back to the right home when we're doing it this way, but we're going to figure it out, obviously, and it's going to take some time this summer for us to work through. But I think that they're going to see a virtual model and an in-person model. I think the fall is going to be a little bit shaky for us because we're all thinking about the current pandemic and the flu season, and that's the scary part. Whereas by spring, I am fingers crossed and very hopeful that we'll all be face-to-face again, although it will be different. It will be the quote unquote new normal that everyone's talking about. But we at Central Bucks believe that the face-to-face is still truly the best way that our students learn and engage and interact. And while they're very resilient to what we're going through right now, that it doesn't make up for the face-to-face interaction of actually sitting down and working with students on different applications and projects and learning theories.
Thank you. Toy or Julie, do you want to add anything to that?
I agree. I think we're uncharted. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Julie. I was just thinking we're in uncharted territories. I do think it will be a roll-in model. However, given the instructional time that we're required to have, I'm interested to see how that plays out. The only part about virtual school that will continue to be a barrier, I think, is equity in learning. Because we don't know what the children are facing at home. I mean, even if we give them devices, that is just one piece of it.
Right.
So just making sure that they have the correct number of instructional minutes, but that they're given the same opportunities to learn is what the biggest challenge is going to be. I ultimately think there's going to be just a lot more responsibilities placed on the school to make sure that it's sanitized and masked and hands washed and things like that so that the kids can be in there. Plus, we can't just have parents off for this amount of time either. So that's my guess. That's the book of Toy. I could be completely wrong about that.
I think we're all guessing at this point.
I taught for 7 years and was a building administrator for 5. So it's going back to, everybody's going back to school at some point.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, they're going back. They're going back to school.
I think a lot of parents would be very happy to hear that. Julie.
Yeah, I have to agree with both Toy and Andrea. We're in uncharted territories, and luckily for us, we are small divisions, so we only have 11 schools. So our teachers have been really great about team planning amongst the schools and common grade levels, as well as vertical team planning, trying to support each other of where their kids need to be when they finish a grade level. And, the hardest thing is right now, instead of new instruction, we're doing a lot of review instruction. Of course, for next year, we have weekly meetings with our state superintendent. So we were on one this morning with him, and, we've been told pretty much to do a contingency plan, what we would, in best scenarios, what we hope for, and then what it may truly look like. And one thing our county did early on, which is a good thing, is we have always had technology in the hands of our students. So being a small rural area, we get more funding. All of our students in grades 6 through 12 have Chromebooks given to them. And those are to keep after graduation. We have a huge ITRT department and tech department that's able to refurbish and keep those machines going for these students. So this year we ordered grades 3 through 6 to make sure they all had them also. So we've been able to do a lot of online learning. The biggest, I'd say the biggest challenge has been the technology with us being in a rural area, accommodating the needs of technology for our students. And then again, we also have done learning packets. So those that do not have the bandwidth or the availability with their hotspots or being able to drive to where we have hotspots located, then they still have the option to do learning packets. But the teachers have been just so creative in our division as far as doing all kinds of virtual learning. It's amazed me. It's absolutely amazed me. We had one, as a matter of fact, on the Today Show this morning celebrating.
Wow.
She's taught with us over 40 years. She is retiring, but even herself, after all these years, is still teaching and learning technology so she can reach out to her students. So she was featured this morning. So we were really proud of her for having that this morning and being honored through it's National Teachers Week. So yeah,
that's exciting. Congratulations. That's wonderful to hear. Greg, what are you advising students as far as those that are graduating in the next week, as far as planning for that first job and starting in the fall?
Yeah, I think, well, the first piece of it is their certification. And so that's really kind of the most imminent, the most pressing concern right now. And I saw there was a question about this already, was maybe the short term, the biggest obstacle that we have for some students is the closure of test centers. And for students who have all of their certification testing completed, things will proceed as usual. And we're already seeing those applications for certification coming in. And so we always recommend that happening as soon as possible in the month of graduation. So whether it's getting a job here in Pennsylvania, or if they're then turning around and using that Pennsylvania certification to apply for a Virginia licensure, for example, we want to get that process moving. We are fully expecting delays in the certification process this spring compared to normal. Some of that is tied to a change in the timeline at Penn State, at the university. Everything from final grade reporting to degree conferral is running 2 or 3 weeks later than usual. But then at the Pennsylvania Department of Education, I think there are going to be delays. Some of that is a staffing issue. And so we're trying to tell students that, if they're in a situation where they haven't been able to complete their testing, we're not sure at this point when test centers will reopen. It's promising the ETS, who is a large test vendor for the Praxis testing. They are in the process of developing a proctored test from home option.
Okay.
We hope to get more information on that the end of this week or early next week. Some of our elementary ed and special ed students use an exam PECT that is vendored by Pearson, and we haven't heard anything from them at this point about a proctored test from home option. So we're just encouraging students, if they have outstanding testing, to go ahead and reschedule their test. And hopefully things will reopen in time for them to do that. But for our students who have all the testing completed, things are proceeding as normal, and just met this morning with some of our staff that are helping to process the applications and double check the test scores and final grades and GPA and things like that. And so we're moving forward full speed. Our goal is always to do our part as quickly as possible so that we can then get the application to the Pennsylvania Department of Education as quickly as possible, which will speed things along in turn, because we know the longer that we go through the summer, the longer the processing time is in Harrisburg with PDE. So that's kind of where things stand right now. I think that the most pressing issue for some students is the testing issue.
Right. And so Tim, I think this is a good segue to you. What are you hearing about the difficulty with the testing and with districts hiring? Are they giving some flexibility with students that haven't, been able to get that testing done because those centers are closed?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't heard a lot or gotten a lot of visibility to that particular issue, but my sense is, and I actually spent 20 years in K-12 human resources myself. My sense is that recruiters will be very understanding of that situation, and to Greg's point, I think if the more candidates can share with recruiters about the status of their application, where they are in the process, that's helpful. Again, I think teacher recruiters are going to understand that, in their state and in every state, there are variances of how this is being handled and how quickly it's being addressed. So, what I hear mostly, is around the issue of, hey, all these teacher job fairs that I was planning to go to have now been canceled, these live events. And so they're looking for outlets, they're desperate to connect with candidates. There are some that are, just as we've talked about with teachers, there are some teacher recruiters that are, less than ideally comfortable with a virtual setting, but that's what we have to go with right now. So, you do what you have to do and you figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not hearing a whole lot about the licensure issue. And I think that will probably, the concern around that will probably grow, say, in a month from now. But I think it's still just so much in flux that people just are, heads down, trying to at least meet up with those candidates and have those conversations. There's a lot of initial conversations, initial interviews, right, that happen before contracts necessarily are being issued out.
Okay, so that kind of takes me to the next question, and if our recruiters want to jump in. So as far as a student looking to find those positions and, get their resume to you, what is the best advice you can give them? And can you speak on, a little bit about those certifications if they are waiting for those centers to reopen?
So we're asking for our teachers, candidates, to just apply like normal. We do offer provisional license pending the fact that you have a college verification form, because we understand that what you all are going through. So the requirements didn't change, but as Tim said, just make sure that you can tell us what's going on. I mean, I also play student teachers, so I had a number of them that are in flux. And so what has happened is some of the colleges have been a little bit more flexible with what they allow their requirements to look like before graduation. So if all of that can be communicated, it's like a big ripple. But yes, we are still looking for the same requirements. We just ask that if there's something that's going on that you're in the process of taking care of, that you just communicate that with us, or it's indicated in your college verification letter.
Okay. Andrea, any advice as far as the connecting to those positions?
We're in the same position as Toy. We are posting our positions still the same way that we always have. And so we're also reaching out to colleges and universities to put them up on their boards as well. But we are requesting very similar to Toy. Apply, it will say in the posting that it requires a specific certification. And if you haven't gotten to that point, we're just kind of giving you the loophole in the system for our paperwork system for you to be able to upload and continue on with the application process. And we can certainly work with the provisional piece until you pass the test and get that back.
Great. Julie, anything you wanted to add to that you may be doing differently?
Pretty much the same thing. We're asking them to go on our website, and we have a link to Talent Ed where we have all of our positions are located there, and they can apply. And then, even if they don't think, as I said, they've got everything they need, just apply, because we're very good at looking through things. We're being very considerate of their needs, and we'll work with them. The Virginia Department of Education, we've had some waivers go through this year for certain things. I know they just sent something out about hands-on CPR, that, you know, they're putting a waiver out there as long as you have the other two parts of it, that, you know, they can do a waiver for that as long as they're doing an online piece. There's lots of different waivers going out, especially in Virginia. So we've been keeping up with that on how we can meet the needs of our teachers that are applying. And again, with the testing and everything, we're willing to work with them. So, you know, we still ask them to apply, and we'll see what we can do for them.
Great. At this point, I have a ton more questions, but there's also a ton of questions from our attendees. So I want to bring them in so we make sure we hit all those. I want to introduce to you Susan Chappell, who is the Employer Engagement Manager at University Park, and my colleague, Zach Foldor. He is the Western Region Employer Engagement and Career Specialist, and they're going to help me kind of tackle some of these questions that our attendees have. Hi, Zach. So do you want to start with the first question?
Sure. And I want to congratulate all our panelists on answering 2 of these questions already. So thank you. Spot on. I know you guys talked a little bit about your short-term changes due to the pandemic, and obviously trying to figure out what this means long-term. But there was a general question that kind of speaks to the overarching impact that you anticipate you will see in your industry moving forward. So the question was, how has this pandemic affected the field of education?
So I'll answer for Central Bucks. So at this point in time, I can't give a clear answer on what the impact is going to be. I can tell you that for the 21-22 school year, we are looking fairly status quo. However, that's not what we're thinking is going to happen in 22-23. When we're looking at more of an economic issue with regard to what we're bringing in financially from our tax revenue in the area, as well as local earned income tax, and how it's going to affect the position that the district is in. So I think right now, for getting through the next school year, I think that we're in a comfortable position. But for moving further out, I think that there is going to be some discomfort. There's going to be some looking at where we can trim things down. We are hopeful that we are not going to have to be in a position where we need to furlough anyone, because, you know, obviously that is the last thing that any of us wants to get behind and to work through. But if that is what happens, then, you know, we address that as it occurs. But our goal is to make sure that, you know, really strong teaching and learning is occurring on a daily basis, and making sure that our kids are getting the best education possible. So that's where we are at the moment. So for next year, we're in an okay position. Well, better than okay. We're set for next year. It's the years following that we are trying to figure out, without knowing all of the facts, where we are. So we're looking at our crystal ball, so to speak.
Fair guess. Who else would like to weigh in with their crystal ball? On what
If I could weigh in, and actually, I'd like to answer from a different angle, which is just the process of you know, recruitment. I think that virtual recruiting is going to be a more of a staple going forward. Mm-hmm. Not just because, I mean, obviously for the most part it arose this year out of necessity, but now there's a lot of you know, hiring administrators and teacher recruiters who have gained that experience, and they've gotten over that hump, if you will. And I think there's a silver lining to that, in that recruiters are able to connect with candidates other states and across the country more easily, more cost effectively, much more cost effectively than they could have before, and vice versa. Candidates from across the country can at least dip their toe into, let's have a conversation with this district in Pennsylvania. Let's have a conversation with this district in Alaska, and I'm heartened by that. And our organization is constantly encouraging candidates to consider relocation, understand that there are a lot of, components to all that, but candidates who are open to relocation will have significantly increased opportunities in their pick of the litter. So that's something the candidates should keep in mind. And again, recruiters who are willing to cast a wider net have a better chance of catching the big fish that they're looking for.
Right. I'm gonna, yes. We were already in a teacher shortage. So the great news is we have jobs for all of them. The biggest lesson, if you have not learned already in being an educator, is flexibility. There will always be a need for teachers. There was a question, I see something about getting an ideal job. You want to have a placement that you're comfortable, but so far as will there be jobs available? Absolutely. That's not going to stop, because despite the economic trend that's going on, the kids didn't leave. So as long as we have students, we have a need for educators. So that won't change. In Prince William, I know the Board of County Supervisors just voted not to change the tax rate for next year. So what that might do is impact either our STEP or our COLA, but it won't impact the fact that we have jobs. So in that regard, we're stable with that. So.
Yeah, I'll from where I'm situated, I would totally second what Tim and Toy just said, in that the students that we see, and this goes back even into student teaching, right? The students that we see that are not only doing okay, but going above and beyond and thriving, are the students who are not only open to learning, but are adaptable and flexible, and then are able to kind of reflect on that experience and learn from it and use that effectively moving forward. And being in the College of Education at Penn State, we have students who graduate and go and take teaching positions all across the country and beyond, internationally as well. And so I think what Tim mentioned about virtual recruiting really expanding, and maybe that was happening already, but the rate at which that happens has accelerated, I think is really going to be a benefit to our students, especially those who, for that initial teaching position, are very open to maybe, not going back to their home communities. That's very common to hear when we have students coming in at 18 years old that say, well, I know a teacher in the school I went to who's probably retiring 4 years from now, and maybe I can get in there and time it just right and take that position. And my question is always, well, that sounds amazing, but what if that doesn't happen? And so, of course, we see a lot of growth over the course of that 4-year period. But I think being adaptable, and again, because so much can happen virtually now, being open to those opportunities that come up, and being open to moving just a little bit out of your comfort zone and trying to learn from that, I think is important.
Yeah, I think it's important for candidates to keep in mind, and certainly not to overwhelm candidates with this concept, but keep in mind that the country has, and you talked about international opportunities, but just within the United States, there are in the neighborhood of 15,000 public school systems, let alone private systems. So opportunities abound. One of the concepts that I like to talk about is, if you I grew up in Grinnell, Iowa. I grew up in a town of 10,000 in central Iowa. There are Grinnell, Iowas all around this country. And it's a matter of, it can take a lot of effort, but you can find a community that's similar to one you're familiar with and can relate to in another part of the country. And they may have the opportunity, the teaching opportunity that you're looking for, whereas your home community does not.
I have to say, we've done 5 of these recruiter talks now, and the biggest takeaway for every industry is flexibility. Students that have that ability to be flexible, maybe change the plan they originally thought they were going to go with, and be able to pivot and look at another opportunity, is where employers are really looking to say, yes, this is the kind of employee that we want to have, somebody that can be flexible and see different opportunities. So, Zach, do you have another question?
Yes, we do. The next question here is in regards to resume advice for our students. You know, what are you to the recruiters here? You know, what are you looking for on a resume, and are there any specific technology platforms that you're looking for your teachers to have experience with? And you know, addressing that maybe perhaps for both our soon-to-be or recent grads, and also any alumni who may have been laid off or furloughed due to the current situation.
I would definitely say in Accomack County, for us, I think anytime you have something like this that's affected us as a whole, you know, country, nation, and we see people resorting to technology, anything you can boast about your abilities with the technology is a definite bonus or plus. You know, I know a lot of, as we said earlier, a lot of candidates come out now knowing so much more with technology, but not knowing that we are moving, whether we're moving that way or not moving forward. I think their comfort level, knowing that they feel comfortable with it and that they'd embrace it, that's going to be a big plus as far as, you know, recruiting. And you don't know, we could start going back and then have another, you know, episode with this, and it could we'd have to go back again. So it's just knowing that they have that comfort level, or that they feel comfortable in doing something like this. That's a plus. So I would say anything they can tell us about their ability with technology, and their willingness to be flexible and learn. You know, that's the biggest I'd say thing we look at. You know, as far as recruiting, we're not afraid to take anybody from any state or anywhere. We started last year doing more virtual just because of our location. And it was great. We had candidates come from Midwest. We've had candidates come, and we've been very fortunate. So stepping out of your comfort zone is not always the worst thing. Sometimes it's one of the better things for a person. So
I would agree with Julie. And this platform for virtual interviewing has been something I've been pushing for some time. But now that our principals have been forced to jump into the pool, into the deep end, now that they're seeing how it works, they're like, oh, well, I have no idea what I was so worried about. So, you know, we're working with our principals just like we are with new teachers, and helping them really realize that it is not as painful as it's going to feel. You just have to jump in, try it a couple of times, and then, you know, you'll get more comfortable with it. One of the things that we really strive for is flexibility from our applicants, and understanding that every kid doesn't learn the same. So if every student doesn't learn the same, neither does every employee, and neither does every principal. So just, you know, being adaptable and being able to have conversations and kind of meeting people where they are.
I would agree. I think in looking at your resume, you want to make sure, and this is going to sound silly, but I think we can all say yes, is make sure it's accurate. Make sure you have proofread it and had somebody else proofread it. Make sure that it has some type of results, like, because I did this, this happened. And we're looking for a person that can teach the whole child. So when you're thinking about how you're presenting yourself to us, you think about the leadership roles that you've had as a student, in your church, in your neighborhood, things like that. Those are the type of things you want to list on your resume. It doesn't have to be everything you did all of your life, but if you think about it from a leadership perspective, because as you're interviewing for these positions, we're looking to see a person who could either speak to their students via technology or in front of a classroom. So that's what we're looking for. I always tell my students, I'm not as concerned about your picture on your resume, because it is against the law for me to hire you based on what you look like. So don't worry about it. I'm not looking for a graphic designer. I want accurate. I want leadership. I want humble, hungry, smart. I want excited. I want somebody that I can see these kids learning from. So be yourself, your professional self.
Yeah, and I just have a few additional comments, and I certainly agree with everything that's been said. I think the ideas of, you know, the historical ideas of resume building and what's appropriate still hold true more, you know, maybe more than ever. You know, accuracy, proofread. I will add consider researching active keywords that in the, look at positions that you're interested in and look at those descriptions and, take the time to tailor your resume for the particular position that you're interested in. And that's a concept that stresses a lot of candidates to think, well, you're telling me I have to do a resume for every position. If you really want to put your best foot forward, that's the way to do it. Customize your resume for each position, or certainly a category of positions. And then just a technical piece, save it in a PDF, save it as a PDF. That's gonna be the best way to share it. So when you're in a virtual job fair environment, sharing resumes, oftentimes they need to be in a PDF format, but it also provides for consistent formatting. So even if you're emailing it, it doesn't, if you use Word and you save it as a Word doc and then you send it and you've used some funky formatting, it may not come through on the other end the way you intended. So that's a couple of additional comments I would share.
Just to jump in on what Tim just shared, always make sure that you check your cover letter and make sure you're sending it to the right person in the right district. I can't tell you how many letters I get that are, dear Dr. So-and-so at such and such a school district. And I'm like, what school district? So just make sure you're checking your cover letters and that they're always updated.
And same with the thank you letters after you engage with recruiters.
And if you list any people for references, make sure you've notified them that you are listing them as a reference as well. I think that's important. So they already have that heads up that they're going to be receiving a call.
Good. So do we have time for maybe 2 more questions?
Yep. So I'm going to go to some questions that came in via the chat. And they're a little bit off the path because I know we're talking here in general to students who were majoring in education, but we know that sometimes a teacher's path doesn't always come straight out of education. Sometimes they come and take a different route. And so we have 2 questions with regard to that. The first is, if you are an IST major, are you able to be a teacher? And what kind of teaching degree, class, certification would you need to move forward in that pathway? And then we'll tack on, this one was for Tori. In PWCS, do you need a teaching license?
You do. You do need a teaching license. For our ISTs, they still need to hold a professional license. I can go through while others are answering the question to VDOE to pull up. There's a test that you'll have to take, but yes, they will still need to have a teaching license.
And Sue, I can jump on that IST major question. So yeah, so at Penn State, IST is not a teacher preparation program, but we have an increasing number of individuals coming back to us asking about post-bachelor's certification options. And sometimes students will couple that with a master's degree program. Other times they will just do what they need to do to fulfill the certification requirements here in Pennsylvania. But this is something that isn't limited to Pennsylvania. There's been a real growth in post-bachelor's programs across the country, and a lot of that is in response to the growing number of people who are doing career changes, people who might have been engineers or worked in private industry and decided at some point that they wanted to go back and become a teacher. And so there are programs that people can complete after they have their bachelor's degree that lead to teacher certification. At Penn State, we have a handful of those. I wish we had more. We've been a little slow in being responsive to kind of the demand for those types of programs, but it's something that a lot of colleges and universities have developed across certification areas.
And I'm going to also say this, just I think when we think about talking to a school division, you think about school only. We're all businesses. So we may not have an instructional technology coach, but we also have people who work in our IST department. So when you are looking for a job, make sure you think of the whole, it is a business. We need accountants, we need people to make the school run. So don't limit yourself.
Okay. There is one other question here that I saw in the chat that Sue brought up. And I think it's a good question to maybe end with, which is because you're going to be recruiting through virtual career fairs. I know students are nervous about that and not sure how that's going to work. They used to be able to, walk up to the recruiter, talk and mingle a little bit. And this question is, will this timeline of activities be the same virtually, or will the interviews be interspersed with meeting the recruiter? So what advice can you give a student who's coming to a virtual career fair to speak to you? How do they get your attention? What does that look like for them? What's some advice you can give to them?
We've hosted a few of those already, and I would say everyone uses a different platform as far as the virtual fairs. But with us, what we do is myself and our director of human resources, we get on and chat with them, and we just kind of get to know them. It's more of a just like we do when we go to the recruiting fairs. We're there at the table. Our superintendent doesn't really like our principals to leave their buildings, but we like to bring people here to the Eastern Shore so they can see the area where they're going to be teaching and get a feel for the area. So we invite them back here to meet the principals and interview with the principals directly. So what we do is we usually just get a feel for the student, talk to them, see if they would be interested in a virtual interview with the principals. We tell them which schools so they can research the schools and learn more about the schools. And then we just set it up when it's convenient for them and our principals. And a lot of the ones we've done already, the candidates actually said they felt more comfortable doing it that way than they did going to a big venue or a big fair. It just seemed a little less intimidating. And then they were able to also, have time, which right now we're, yes, we'd like to have contracts and offer contracts and have a yes right on the spot, but we understand people like to visit the area as well too. So we're being very flexible, and especially if things change and start lifting, and they're able to come and visit the area. We take them around and show them the schools and get them to meet firsthand. But to me, it's a great stepping stone to actually getting here, is getting to know some of the other principals, and just going through the kind of it's more of just a little talk that we have with them, and we just want them to feel comfortable with it. So
great, thank you.
Yeah, can I jump on that as well?
Sure.
So I think as Julie just said, the platforms vary and the approach used. So in our case, we're hosting 100 different districts. Even the way that each of them is approaching it within our platform is going to vary. So I think I appreciate the challenge for candidates given that situation. I think candidates should try to hopefully the host, or whether that's a district or an organization, is sending out some information in advance to give them a sense of what that's going to look like. But candidates also, I think, regardless, should come into it with the expectation that, they may have a video chat as part of that. It may just all be text-based, keyboard-based chat. Prepare for it, dress professionally, which I think is just a good thing to put you in the right headspace. And then treat whatever those interactions are, treat them as professionally as you would in person. But again, in our event, we saw it primarily was about those introductory conversations and sharing some basic information and pursuing potential interest, and then planning some future conversations, whether video chat or at some point an in-person conversation. So, again, I absolutely appreciate the challenge of all this with candidates, and districts and learning organizations like ours are learning, and we like to think we're getting better as we move forward, right, and communicating and setting those expectations. But yeah, I appreciate everybody's patience with all this.
Yeah. Toy, did you want to just add some advice in there for students?
Yes, I would. That would be great. Don't wait. Apply now. Take your time. And you don't have to wait to the day of the event to reach out. You all have an amazing opportunity with technology that you can look into our school divisions and really look and see what you like. Each individual school has their own website. You can reach out to the principals. You can reach out. I mean, we're all recruiters. I mean, I work in the Department of Human Resources, but we are all recruiters. So if you have a question asked, don't wait, because there might be a limit on the time that you can spend talking to somebody during a fair, that you can have it limitless on a different day. So sell yourself. Think about it. You've experienced this. You think about your kids. Don't use their names in the interviews, but think about the kids that you've had the opportunity to engage with. Use that information. Good luck. You'll be fine.
Andrea, I'll leave it to you. Any last words? They cover it pretty well.
They did. They covered it fantastic. I have to agree with Toy, though. I can't tell you how many times somebody uses a student's name. Just be careful.
Okay. Well, we are at time. I want to thank you all so very much for coming. I'm sure it's been a huge help. We've had, just to give you an idea of attendance, we've had 41 people attend. We've had 18 students who took part in our talk today, as well as 21 staff members here at Penn State. And we've had one faculty member as well. So thank you. I'm sure it was a huge help to them. I do want to remind everybody, we are not having a Tuesday Talk to the Recruiters next week because of our Career Services Professional Development, but we're going to be back on May 19th. We're going to have Almac Group, United Health Services, and Enterprise Holdings. So hopefully you'll join us for that as well. But to our panelists, again, thank you so very much. Stay safe and healthy, and good luck with all of your recruiting. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You as well.
Thanks. Bye-bye.